At a family gathering, Aaron handed his younger brother a birthday gift, only to hear his father chuckle and say, "Well, of course he can afford it. He's not really part of the family, he's our bank." Everyone laughed, except Aaron. That moment cracked open years of hidden resentment, financial manipulation, and emotional betrayal. But what came next, no one was ready for. Aaron stood on the front porch of his parents' suburban home, gift bag in hand, heart already a little heavier than usual. He hadn't visited in months, work, mostly, and if he was honest, the growing discomfort of never quite knowing where he stood in the family. But it was Eli's birthday. His younger brother. He'd promised himself he'd show up. The house was warm, noisy, full of familiar smells. Pot roast, vanilla candles, and too many voices talking over each other. Balloons floated above the dining table. Eli was surrounded by friends, cousins, and a few coworkers, holding court like a celebrity. Aaron waited for a lull before approaching. "Happy birthday, man," he said with a quiet smile, handing over a small box. Eli opened it, a minimalist silver watch with a brushed face and leather band. Not expensive, but elegant. "Whoa," Eli said, lifting it for everyone to see. "This is really nice." "Thanks, Aaron." Someone whistled. Their father, Dennis, leaned back in his chair, beer in hand. With a smirk, he said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Of course it's nice. He can afford it. He's not really one of us, he's just the bank." The room burst into laughter. Even Eli chuckled sheepishly. Aaron stood there, the smile on his face frozen in place. Something inside him recoiled, not at the words, but the ease with which they were said. The familiarity of them. It wasn't just a joke. It was a script. One they'd rehearsed many times, behind his back, maybe even right in front of him. No one saw his eyes dim, or the slight shift in his posture as he slowly stepped back into the kitchen. He picked up a paper plate and filled it absent-mindedly, but he no longer tasted anything. In that moment, he realized this wasn't a rare slip of the tongue. It was truth, wrapped in a laugh. And once you hear the truth spoken like that, casually, publicly, without shame, you can't unhear it. He wasn't family. He was function. And something had just cracked wide open. The party had started to wind down. The candles on the cake had melted into frosting, and the guests trickled out into the chilly evening air with full bellies and leftover containers. Aaron stood by the sink, washing his plate just to keep his hands busy, his mind still circling around his father's words like a drain that wouldn't clear. "Aaron," a voice called gently from behind. He turned to find Grandma Ruth by the back door, shawl wrapped tightly around her shoulders, eyes soft but unreadable. "Step out with me for a moment, will you?" she asked. They moved onto the porch, where the night air wrapped around them in silence. She reached into her worn leather purse and pulled out a small envelope, yellowed at the edges and carefully sealed. "I found this in the mail pile last week," she said, almost apologetically. "It's not mine to open, but it had your name. And something told me you ought to know." Aaron took it, hesitated, then slid a finger under the flap. Inside were 3 sheets of paper, a finalized auto loan agreement, repayment schedule, and title application. His name was printed clearly across the top. His signature, except it wasn't his, scrawled at the bottom. Approved. Funded. Active. The loan had already been repaid. The car? A 2022 sedan. Fully paid. Transferred 2 weeks ago. Aaron's breath caught. He didn't own a car. He hadn't applied for anything. But he had just watched Eli hand his keys to a friend, proudly pointing out the new ride parked in the driveway like it was a trophy. His stomach turned. "How long have they been doing this?" he murmured, eyes still locked on the papers. Grandma Ruth didn't answer. She just placed a frail hand on his shoulder. "Sometimes," she whispered, "people forget that even the strong ones have limits. Especially when they're used to you carrying the weight without complaint." Aaron nodded slowly, eyes glazed, papers trembling in his hands. That envelope didn't just carry forged documents. It carried the weight of betrayal and the beginning of a truth he could no longer ignore. Back at his apartment, Aaron sat in the dim light of his living room, the envelope from Grandma Ruth still on the table beside a mug of untouched tea. The documents had sent a quiet shiver through his body, But what followed was louder, heavier. He opened his laptop. At first, it was just to confirm the car loan. But as he scrolled through his financial accounts, something inside him began to crack. There was a $39.99 charge to a streaming service he didn't use. In fact, he didn't even recognize the name. Then a payment to Brook Hollow Academy, a private school. Another to an insurance company listed under small business liability. Confused, he opened the transaction history wider. Monthly charges, dating back nearly 2 years. The names and references started to make sense now. Brook Hollow, that was where Aunt Tessa's kid had just transferred. The business insurance? That matched the name of his father's side hustle. Then there was the $1,800 withdrawal tagged campus housing deposit. The same month his cousin had started college. Every breadcrumb led back to family. They'd been using his name, his accounts, his generosity like a silent bank, like a back end to their lives. Not once had anyone asked. Not once had anyone offered to pay it back. And then, like someone had hit a switch, his phone began to buzz. Text after text. Hey, if you see anything weird, just give us a call. Aaron, I think we should talk about something. It's not what it looks like. Please don't jump to conclusions, okay? No one said, sorry. No one said, we were wrong. No ownership. Just panic. A mad scramble to contain the fallout. Not the damage done to him, but the consequences they might now face. Aaron stared at the screen, a hollow feeling settling into his chest. They weren't reaching out because they missed him. They were reaching out because they feared losing access to him. That night, in the glow of his laptop and the cold hum of betrayal, Aaron realized this wasn't a sudden breach. It was a slow, quiet erosion. And he had finally stepped out of the tide. The morning after the birthday party, Aaron sat on the edge of his bed, phone still buzzing beside him. He hadn't responded to anyone. The silence, for once, felt like his only form of control. Then, a message lit up the screen. Natalie. His younger cousin. Quiet. Observant. The kind of person who always stood on the edges of family gatherings, half in, half out. Like she didn't fully belong either. Hey. I know this is out of nowhere, but I need to tell you something. Aaron's stomach tightened. Last month, I was at Eli's place. He didn't know I was still in the hallway. He joked to someone on the phone, said you'd never say no. Said, and I quote, Aaron's basically our autopay. He won't even notice. Aaron reread the words 3 times. It was funny, almost, how casual the cruelty sounded. Not, Aaron helps us a lot. Not, Aaron's generous. Just a human ATM with a soft face. Natalie's next message came slower. I should have told you sooner. I just didn't want to be the one who stirred things up. Everyone always acts like questioning things is disloyal. There was the unspoken code. Aaron had always thought his silence bought peace. That it was the glue. But now he saw it differently. Silence wasn't peace. It was a system. A system where his silence meant safety, for them. Where speaking up was betrayal, not what had been done to him. He typed back, fingers trembling slightly. Thank you. That must have been hard to say. It was, she replied. But not as hard as pretending I didn't hear it. Aaron sat still, her words echoing. For the first time, someone had stepped out of the script. No gaslighting, no deflection. Just truth. And in that moment, Aaron understood something deeper. This wasn't just about money. It was about worth. About seeing and being seen. The cafe was quiet, one of those tucked-away places with soft jazz playing and the scent of roasted beans lingering in the air. Aaron chose it on purpose. Neutral ground. No kitchen table tension. No walls of family photos watching. He sat across from his parents, coffee cooling between them. His hands stayed calm on the table, though his heart beat with the weight of generations. I wanted to talk, he began quietly. No yelling. No scenes. Just truth. His father leaned back, suspicious. His mother folded her napkin tighter than necessary. I know about the car loan, Aaron said, looking at them both. The forged signature. The charges on my accounts. I know everything. There was a pause. His father didn't flinch. Instead, he gave a half shrug as if Aaron had just pointed out the weather. "We raised you," he said, eyes narrowing slightly. "Kept you fed. Gave you a roof. It's the least you could do." Aaron swallowed hard. That sentence, he'd heard variations of it all his life. But now, it felt like a wall collapsing. His mother spoke softer, but not gentler. "Family helps family, Aaron. That's how it works. We lean on each other." He met her gaze, calm and firm. "Then why am I the only one anyone's leaning on?" Silence. Not the thoughtful kind, the defensive, tightening kind. "I wasn't asked. I was used. And no one thought I'd notice or mind." His father muttered, "It's not like you're struggling. And that makes it okay to betray me?" Aaron asked, voice still steady, but his eyes were glassy. His mother looked down. "You've always been so capable, we didn't think you'd care." That was the wound, wasn't it? Not just the money. The assumption that being strong meant he didn't need love. That being stable meant he didn't deserve protection. Aaron stood up slowly, heart racing now. "Being the strong one doesn't mean you get to hurt me without consequence." He didn't raise his voice. But for the first time, they heard him. That night, Aaron sat alone at his desk. The lamp's golden light bathed his laptop in a soft glow. Outside, the wind howled faintly through the window, like a memory trying to crawl back in. But he didn't flinch. His mind was steady, his heart exhausted, but clear. He called it Operation Closure. Not revenge. Not punishment. Just the quiet reclaiming of space that had never truly been his. The shared Spotify account? Removed. The family Netflix profile with his name on it? Deleted. Amazon Prime? Logged out from all devices. The joint credit card, the one they used to just cover a few things? Frozen. Permanently. The shared bank account he opened 3 years ago so his mother could transfer her savings easily? He opened his financial dashboard. Line by line, he tracked it all. Insurance premiums that weren't his, a storage unit he'd never visited, monthly payments for an iPad, for Eli's tutoring, and a suspicious charge labeled therapy copay. He hadn't been to therapy in a year. His cursor hovered over the last item, automatic rent payment for his parents' office space. He stared at it for a long time. Cancelled. As he leaned back, a strange silence filled the room. Not the cold kind. The kind that comes when weight lifts from your shoulders, and your silence. He wasn't angry. Not anymore. He was done. For years, they had made him invisible in everything except utility. A credit card with legs. A smart one, with a big job and no complaints. They had assumed his boundaries were just suggestions, negotiable. But tonight he reminded them they weren't. His phone lit up with notifications. Password reset requests. Missed call from Dad. Text from Eli. "Hey, Netflix isn't working. What's up?" Aaron just turned off the screen. For once, they would have to ask how they lost access, not just when. And maybe, for the first time, they'd have to wonder why. By morning, the storm had begun, not outside, but online. Aaron's phone buzzed nonstop. Notifications stacked like accusations. Facebook tags, Instagram stories, subtweets too vague to name him but obvious enough to sting. Some people forget where they come from. Money really changes people. Imagine throwing away your family over a few bills. But it wasn't the posts that made Aaron's chest tighten. It was the video. Eli, seated in his car, eyes glassy with well-practiced tears, said to the camera, "I don't know what happened to Aaron. He used to care. Now it's like he's shutting us out. I'm scared for him, honestly. He's not himself lately." The comments rolled in fast. "You don't deserve this. Stay strong, Eli. Maybe he needs help." Then came the text from Marlene, his aunt, the one who used to call him her second son. "Can't believe you do this to us. After all we've done." No questions. No attempt to understand. Just guilt, weaponized and gift-wrapped. Aaron didn't reply. Instead, he opened his laptop and created a folder named Truth, just in case. Inside, he began placing it all. Screenshots of the loan application, forged signature included. bank statements with unexplained charges, messages from Natalie admitting what she overheard, audio clips of conversations with his parents, calm but clear, dates, timestamps, receipts, evidence. Not for revenge. For protection. They weren't just trying to rewrite the past, they were erasing it entirely, painting him as ungrateful, unstable, selfish. But Aaron wasn't breaking down. He was breaking free. For years, he'd been the quiet one, the fixer, the one who never made a scene. Now that he had drawn a line, they mistook his boundaries for aggression, because they had never seen him with any. As the digital chaos raged on, Aaron sat quietly in his room, sifting through the truth. It was painful work, but honest. They were trying to control the story. He was making sure the truth had a voice, even if it was spoken in silence. Aaron sat at his desk, fingers hovering above the keyboard. The cursor blinked on a blank LinkedIn post draft, not a place people usually aired family matters. But that was the point. This wasn't gossip. It was a pattern. A cautionary tale. He took a slow breath and began to type. What happens when family loyalty becomes financial abuse? For years, I thought I was helping. I paid bills, co-signed loans, handed over passwords, sent emergency Venmos. I never asked for thanks, just hoped for honesty. Last week, I found out a car loan had been taken out in my name. Forged signature. $19,000. Already paid off, not by them, by me. That was the crack that broke the dam. I discovered accounts I didn't open, subscriptions I didn't use, school deposits for a cousin I barely see, all under my name. I confronted my parents calmly. Their response? We raised you. This is the least you could do. This isn't a smear campaign. I'm not naming names. But I'm speaking because silence is how this stuff survives. Family should never mean forfeiting your boundaries, your autonomy, your identity. He attached redacted documents, signatures blurred, names blacked out. Just facts, dates, receipts, proof. Then he hit post. And waited. Nothing happened for the first hour. Then one comment. Then 20. Then hundreds. Some shocked. Some grateful. Many sharing. I thought I was the only one. My brother took out a credit card in my name in college. I'm still paying it off. You're brave for saying it. We need more people like you. Aaron leaned back in his chair, overwhelmed. Not with pride, with release. The weight he'd been carrying in private was now part of a larger truth. He wasn't alone. He still hadn't heard from his family. But for the first time in a long time, he didn't need to. He hadn't posted for revenge. He had posted to reclaim the narrative. And the world? It had listened. Not for the drama. But because the story was theirs too. 3 days had passed since Aaron's post went viral. The silence from his family had been deafening, until now. A sharp knock echoed at his apartment door. Aaron's heart didn't race, didn't skip a beat. He had learned to steady himself. He opened the door to find his father standing there, flanked by Eli and Marlene. Eli held a worn folder tightly, the edges bent from handling. Marlene's eyes were red-rimmed, her lips trembling slightly. "We're here to fix it," Eli said quietly, extending the folder toward Aaron. Inside, Aaron could see the car title and a check, evidence of repayment, the attempt to make amends. Aaron took a slow breath, meeting their hopeful, pleading eyes without anger or bitterness. "Fixing it would have meant admitting the truth before I had to expose it," he said gently but firmly. But that never happened. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle between them. "Now, I don't need fixing. I don't need apologies or favors. What I need, what I've needed all along, is space." Marlene's lip quivered as she whispered, "Please, Aaron. We're family." Aaron's gaze softened just a little. Family is more than blood. It's respect, trust, honesty. And that's been missing for a long time. His father swallowed hard, eyes glistening. "We were scared. We didn't know how to ask for help without hurting you." Aaron shook his head slowly. "You never had to hide behind lies. I wanted to believe we were a team. But I was playing alone." Eli looked down at the folder in his hands, a bitter reminder of the distance their secrets had created. Aaron stepped back, closing the door gently but decisively. He didn't turn to look back. Outside, the winter wind whispered softly through the trees, carrying with it the quiet hope that sometimes healing begins with letting go. Christmas Eve was quiet, but for the first time in years, Aaron didn't feel the weight of disappointment pressing down on his chest. He sat on the worn couch in Natalie's cozy apartment, surrounded by a handful of her closest friends. Their laughter was warm, spontaneous, not the kind he'd learned to brace for at family gatherings, where jokes often masked deeper wounds. The small Christmas tree in the corner twinkled softly, its ornaments simple but chosen with care. Aaron's eyes traced the familiar shapes: a paper star, a delicate snowflake, a tiny wooden reindeer, each one telling a story of someone who truly cared. He felt a quiet peace settle over him, a feeling so unfamiliar it almost startled him. Natalie caught his gaze and smiled gently, offering him a cup of cocoa. Aaron took it, nodding in thanks. For once, the silence between them wasn't heavy, it was comfortable. He whispered, "This is what home should feel like." The room hummed with a kind of belonging, one built not on shared secrets or financial ties but on genuine connection. Here, no one expected anything from him but his presence, nothing more, nothing less. As the night deepened, Aaron found himself reflecting on the past months, the betrayal, the confrontation, the exposure. It had all been a painful unraveling, but also a necessary one. He realized that sometimes, the family you're born into isn't the family you keep. Sometimes, you have to let go of old versions to make space for something real. A gentle voiceover begins, soft but sure. Sometimes, you have to lose a version of family to build a real one. The kind that sees you as a person, not a paycheck. The kind that welcomes you with open arms, not closed doors. And when that happens, healing isn't just possible, it becomes inevitable. Aaron smiled faintly, feeling for the first time in a long while that maybe, just maybe, he was finally home. If this story struck a chord with you, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share your own story in the comments. We read every single one. And hey, if someone's treating your generosity like a given, it might be time to start setting your own terms.